the words a lot. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. And I know it feels like that often. I've said that. I didn't have a choice. I had to. And as I've done a lot of personal work and also as now lots and lots of years in the coaching profession and world, I realized something it's a cop out and it's also a lie. What we usually mean, or what I usually meant when I said that is, well, obviously any idiot looking at the situation would realize I must do this, or some set of often unnamed but imagined consequences would occur that would be really bad. Like I have to go to work. Idea is if I don't, I'll lose my job or lose a bunch of money, even if I don't lose my job, and I can't do that, right? Obviously, nobody would disagree. Well, but I still had a choice. I could go do something else. And in fact, there are situations in which I would. Okay, my lovely angel, holy walk on water wife, Joy, is in the hospital. I wouldn't go to work. I'd go to the hospital and I would call if I could. And if I was in the back of an ambulance or something like that, I would expect someone to understand. And in fact, if somebody didn't and there was some bad consequence, I wouldn't do this because I don't do this, but somebody would post on social, these terrible people, they did this and awful, and then sympathy would pour out, and maybe there would be a news article and maybe, that kind of thing. But the point isn't any of that. The point is I had a choice. And what we say, we want to excuse ourselves from the sovereign responsibility of choosing. So I want to invite you today with me to come into this discussion for a few minutes and talk about choice versus obligation. We always have a choice to do or not do something, to say or not say something, to feel or not feel something, to believe or not believe something. We've conditioned ourselves to deny the opportunity to choose because we have habits and assumptions. Obviously, I got to go to work because, right? And it's funny how that changes. So you see this all the time. The divorce rate is sky high. I've had 3 failed relationships. Most of the responsibility was mine. I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I do now, and I love it, and I'm devoted and committed and can't even imagine not having this. And, we're 18 years and counting and planning for another infinity years. But I didn't know how to do that at all. And so when a person gets into a relationship or even a business partnership, but let's talk relationship, it feels just right. It feels good. You're aligned. You love each other. And then over time, opinions diverge. Someone does something you didn't expect or didn't think was part of the agreement. And then over time, what? It gets stale. Familiarity breeds contempt. And the truth is, I didn't continue doing whatever it was I did to create magic in the first place. So then instead of a joyful relationship, oh, I love it, I love being with this person, blah, 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 then it becomes a drag. I got to do this for the old lady. I had no choice. And that kind of language, and you hear it, and it's cliche, right, on TV, or the other way around. Yeah, my old man this or my hubby that, oh, dear. And then we start using completely different language, and the feelings all change. Well, the person didn't change that much. Sometimes it happens. People do change. And the whole coaching industry and the psychology industry and medical industry is based on the idea that things can change. You have an infection, you take an antibiotic, something can change. A hypnosis course, or go to see a therapist and you're smoking and you quit. So things can change. They don't change on their own, but they do change. Now, you're either working and building or things are falling apart. So a relationship, if you don't nurture it, guess what? It dies. In the beginning, you can't wait to talk to them. You do anything to be around them, text, and you're taking those specific actions. And then a day, a week, a month, a year, 2 years after you get together and you're in a committed relationship or married, then suddenly you stop doing those things. Well, if you stop feeding something, it dies. That's not a question. So that's why those things go from a joyful choice to an obligation. So I want to address this idea that we have any obligations. You don't have any obligations. You don't. You have choices that you have made into obligations because the word obligation, I want you to think about it. Every time you say, well, I have to, HAFTA, GOTTA, I gotta this, I have to that, it implies the seeds of resentment because, well, I have to, the tonality, the body language, and the idea itself, every feeling around it means I'd rather be doing something else. Well, I gotta, but I'd love to, but I have to. I'd rather be doing something else. So you've turned a commitment, a choice that you made today or a year or 20 years ago into an obligation. Now, that's just an observation. And if you think about it, it's 100% and absolutely true. So what? So what do you do about it? Well, you have a choice. Get rid of it. Well, in the case of a marriage, that means leaving the relationship. Well, you may not really want to do that. You may have kids. You may say, well, I can't do that. Or, well, it's not that bad. Or people just stick it out because, I haven't got anything better to do right now. I know a guy that did that. He was not happy in his marriage. He had he met somebody that he really liked. Yeah, that would have meant he'd have to divorce. And he said, not worth all the trouble. I'll just stay where I am. So he stayed in a sucky relationship, didn't fix that one, and didn't, do the effort to get something better because he had this jaded attitude that there was nothing better. Well, if you rewind the clock X number of years when he got married, that wouldn't be the attitude. So this is a choice we make. We default to this silliness. So I want to invite you to throw away all your obligations. Have no obligations. I look at my calendar regularly and I empty it. Nothing on it. And then I carefully put things back on it that I want to do. And if there was something on there before, like I look at the previous week and I see where I filled up my calendar, my time, and I start to think about putting it back and it's got that thing in the stomach, I don't look forward to that, don't want to do this. Then I go through an exercise, and here's the exercise. Am I willing to change my mind, my thinking about that, and make it back into a joyful choice, a joyful commitment? Commitments and obligations aren't the same. Sometimes we treat them the same. Well, I got too many commitments. Nonsense. Commitments are positive. Obligations are negative. Obligations have resentment. Commitments are joyful choices where you have chosen to put your divine power and energy. And you get to pick those. And if you confuse commitments and obligations, man, do you have a sorry, sad life. Separate them. So empty your calendar and only put those things back you want to do. And if you look at it and say, well, I don't want to go to work, or I don't want to stay married, or I don't want to, then you have a choice. Either end that obligation, make that choice, and then, you have to deal with a crap load of consequences, or do the work, because the crap load of consequences is a bunch of work. Maybe it's inconvenient, maybe it's not fun, maybe it's expensive. Or change how you view it just because you can. I don't mean pretend. Rekindle your commitment, rekindle your choice, rekindle your joy. That's possible. That's possible. So that is your invitation. Only do things you want to do. Empty your calendar and make a choice to put things back on there that you want to do. And if you look at what that would mean at first pass, then you have a choice to make. Am I willing to deal with whatever consequences, however big or small they might be? Or am I willing to do the work internally to make it a joyful choice? Because in that way, you live only with positive choices. Now, that's a transformational idea. It's not just a thing to say, because in order to do it, we have sovereign control of that state of mind. And that's what the school of transformation, the school of personal sovereignty is all about. The school of personal sovereignty is one of the schools in the Ultimate Life University, ultimatelifeuni.com. Ultimate Life University has 4 schools. I'll talk about them over time, but one of them is the school of personal sovereignty, of transformational personal sovereignty, because 99% of people that I make do not operate in that realm. They operate from obligation, from weight, from have to, from negative experience, and you don't got to live there, not even one more day. So if you want to go from obligations and feeling like you have no choice and you're buried under the weight of past choices or that kind of stuff, let's talk. Go to kellenflukigermedia.com and use a contact form or comment on this video. And let's talk, because the school of sovereign transformation or personal sovereignty is the place to learn exactly how to do that. And it's not some gimmick. It's not some fake it till you make it crap, because we learned all the feelings and choices we have now, and we can learn new ones. That's the glory of the brain and neuroplasticity. That's the glory of sovereignty and personal choice. You really can. And I know that because that's where I live. Every day, every hour, every minute. And it is the most joyous and glorious place. If I can help you get to that, let's talk about the school of personal sovereignty. We'll see ya.